We are talking about cryocrastination today. Why you should avoid it and how to avoid it. And to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm going to start with a definition. Cryocrastination, verb. The act of delaying signing up for cryopreservation for an undefined period, despite having no legitimate reason to delay. And I'll start with a bit of context about why I'm even bringing this up. So the European Biostasis Foundation did a survey of over 1,400 Americans to find out what they think about cryonics. And 6% said they intend to be cryopreserved upon their death. That's not just interest level. Interest was 25%. 6% say they intend to be cryopreserved upon their death. So if we translated that to the American population, that would mean 20,810,786.58 Americans are or will soon be signed up for cryonics. I don't know how the 0.58 person is planning to do it. Maybe they're going to go for like torso and up cryopreservation, but I want it to be mathematically accurate for you all, okay? So that sounds amazing. What's the reality? Today, around 3,000 Americans have signed up to be cryopreserved. And if we do the math, that means the ratio is out of 6,936 Americans who say they intend to be cryopreserved, only one is actually signed up. And I have a little visual representation of this that was made with some quick ChatGPT vibe coding. So these are 6,936 individual dots. You see one red one. So that's a pretty bad proportion. And I will concede that internet surveys aren't always exactly proportional to or representative of the average population. They tend to be younger. They tend to be a bit more tech savvy. So of course, it's possible that 6% is an exaggeration. But even if it's half of that, even if it's a seventh of that, 1 in 1,000, that is still a significant ratio. Something is happening here. The first step is to admit to yourself whether you are a cryocrastinator. The first type is someone that's totally brought into the principle. They want to live longer. They think cryonics could work, but they just haven't gotten around to it. The second one is, you're down for it, but you say, I don't need that now, I'll do it when I'm older. And of course, in this case, older is always some undefined, unspecified older that you push off forever into the future. And a third kind is someone that has some doubts about cryonics, some questions, but they've made little or no attempt to actually address them, to go and do the research, to ask the cryonics providers to see if this is actually a problem. That is also a kind of cryocrastination. So now that I've established that this is a common problem, why is it actually bad? What are you risking by cryocrastinating? We'll start with the personal risks. So the most obvious one is unexpected death. Maybe not super likely for any individual one of you, but also statistically, some of us in this great arena will be dying earlier than we expect. And the second part, this serious medical issue, this is something that I don't think people are considering enough. Even if you're not dying, if you have medical issues, it can make you uninsurable, which, life insurance is the main way that people are paying for cryopreservation. That can significantly complicate things. It can also impede your ability to make future income. All of these things can mess with your cryopreservation. The other one is that you may just not be as financially responsible as you think you are. You might think, okay, life insurance, who cares? Old me is going to be rich, no problem, I'll pay for it out of pocket. It's nice to assume that. Most people are unfortunately wrong. It isn't, you don't need to be a millionaire to sign up for cryonics, but it is something you need to plan for. Unless you happen to be fabulously wealthy, you do need to plan this well in advance, and life insurance forces you to do that. It also protects you in case you get sued. Life insurance is one of those things people can't take away. They can take your house, they can take everything, but life insurance, if you have that locked in, that is secure. The other one is an older you may feel differently. Now, I don't have any stats to support this. This is just a pet theory of mine. But when I look at that ratio of intent versus actually signed up, 6,936 to 1, to me, procrastination doesn't tell the whole story. I think something else is also happening here, which is, for us right now, life is great. We feel like we could live another 1,000 lives. There's so much to be done. But if you've ever hung out with someone that's very old recently, it sucks. Aging sucks. You feel shitty, everything hurts, you're slow, and you have hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution trying to get you to accept death, or at least not think about it. It's a very different state than you are in now. So it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of people that when they were young assumed, yeah, eventually I'll sign up for cryonics. When they're old, they're in a totally different headspace. Maybe they didn't figure out the funds, and now going through the hassle, I don't want to sign up. It's easy to just not. So in some sense, signing up now, already getting all the documents over with, already putting in the money, it's a kind of hedge against your future self in case they might feel differently. A good example of this is Larry King. He talked about being cryopreserved. He was down. He wanted to be cryopreserved. He said it on multiple occasions, and it definitely wasn't a money problem. But he wasn't. He died, and he was buried or cremated. And part of that is he just waited too long. He never actually went through with a sign-up. In the end, it might have been, a wife that convinced him against it, but whatever it is, whatever he had felt when he was younger, it became too late. There are also collective risks. The more people cryocrastinate, the more cryonics progress is delayed. If you say, I'm going to wait until I'm 80 to sign up, and everybody else your age does that, then by the time you're 80, cryonics will not have progressed as much. And the other fact is that progress is uneven. So there's kind of this very intuitive, people think of progress as like, okay, we got all these different fields, we got cancer research, we got cryonics, we got AI, and they're all just on this upward trajectory over time. Everything is improving, everything's getting better, no problem. The reality is a little more like this. So every field has its own curve, and it all depends on where attention and therefore capital is directed. And of course, cryonics is not where we'd want it to be. But the good news is that this is not inevitable. The more people that are interested in this, especially sooner, the more you get that slope to increase. So there is a collective risk. The more that we're all delaying, the more people that are cryocrastinating into the grave, the worse that slope is for all of us. Now that you understand what you're risking, let's talk about how to not do it. How to avoid being the dreaded cryocrastinator. First is a simple step, make sure that you actually understand cryonics. Sometimes people just delay because they have a very basic misunderstanding of what they're actually getting themselves into. Pricing is a common one, so people assume you have to be very rich. It will cost, if you paid it up front, $75,000 to $220,000. Depending on which organization you go with or whether you go for brain, neuro, or whole body. But you do not need to pay for that upfront. In fact, it's not recommended unless you are terminally ill or you are very old. It doesn't make sense. So most people are getting a life insurance, and a life insurance plus a membership starts at about $70 per month and it increases with age. Another reason you shouldn't delay. So make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into, and that's not a reason why you're putting it off. Another one is just a basic demographics. People think, okay, but it would be weird if I signed up because cryonics is like for old people, and I would be an anomaly if I signed up now. Well, the average age of someone signing up is 36, at least according to what I heard from Tomorrow Bio. I think Emil said 37 or 38 now, but it's not that old, okay? For reference, I signed up when I was 21. So you are not too young to sign up. Cryonics is not just for old people. The next step is to identify your excuse. What do you tell yourself is the reason you haven't signed up yet? I did the cryonics concern survey, and at the end, people who said they hadn't signed up yet, I asked them why you think that is. I really appreciated one of the answers I saw there, which is a one-word, laziness, okay? It's self-aware, and I appreciate that. But now we're going to do a little bit of audience participation. So, can everybody raise your hands if you're interested in being cryopreserved? Whether or not you're signed up, if you're interested in being cryopreserved, please raise your hand now. Okay. The people that don't have their hands up there, they're maybe confused. They thought this was going to be about like organ biostasis or something, but okay. All right, so keep your hands up. All right, put your hands down if you're actually fully signed up. Okay, for those remaining, what's your excuse?
Oh, I'm signed up. Sorry.
You are signed up. Okay, what about you?
I have corporate life insurance, and I don't have any private life insurance, and I'm looking to retire, so...
Okay. Private insurance issues. Okay, let's go back there. What's your excuse? Okay, maybe turn the mic on. But he said, I'm young and I don't have money. Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, I'm not going to go around and, you can put your hands down now. I'm not going to go around and debate everybody's issue or excuse, but I will say everyone has their reason. Something I've heard is, I will sign up for cryonics once they're able to reanimate a horse. Why specifically a horse, I don't know. I have several reasons why I don't think this is around the corner, but honestly, even if it were, I think this is kind of a bullshit reason. Because are you really telling me that if they were able to reanimate a mouse by the time you're 85, you would rather go into the ground and never have any chance of revival and be eaten by worms rather than sign up because it's not a horse? Or what if the researchers just skip past a horse and go straight to monkey? You're saying, nope, it has to be a horse. So really think about, whatever your excuse is, are you really willing to give up your chance for any future life for that reason? And for some of you, the answer might be yes. Some of you might say, nope, I will really only do this if they can reanimate a horse or whatever it is. Fine. In that case, I wouldn't even consider you a cryocrastinator. I would just consider you a future skeleton. So the next step in not being a cryocrastinator is setting a trigger. So some specific condition that will prompt you to sign up for cryonics when met. And there are good triggers and bad triggers. Good triggers can be meaningful. So if you say you don't have the money, right? Okay, think about at what point would you have the money where you feel that you can sign up? So maybe you say, all right, I'll sign up once I have a salary of over 100,000, for example, or whatever number it is for you. But good triggers can also be arbitrary. So if you don't have a legitimate blocker, you're just a procrastinator, fine. Set an arbitrary trigger, but like you'll sign up before your next birthday or on your next birthday or whatever it might be. But there are also bad triggers. So bad triggers are ones that depend on others. A common one is, I'll sign up once my parents have been convinced to sign up. But just like, you know, on the plane, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, take care of yourself first. This means you could definitely start procrastinating into the grave. So first take care of yourself. Do not have your trigger rely on other people. And the other one is just one that's too vague. So saying something like, I'll sign up when all of my questions about cryonics are answered. But when all your questions are answered, I don't know. Like, the condition needs to be very obvious when it's been met. And the other thing is just talk to cryonics providers. So I've listed here the contact pages of the top 3 providers in the US. You can also scan this QR code. It's nothing fancy. It's just a Google Docs with all these links in case you don't want to lose them. But take advantage of talking to them here. So we have representatives from Alcor and Tomorrow Bio here, and they even have exclusive discount codes on the membership that you can lock in only if you sign up this weekend. So take advantage of that. This is where we are. This is you. And you're at a crossroads. And you can decide, are you going to secure your cryopreservation now, or at least set a very specific trigger that you will keep? Or are you going to cryocrastinate into the grave? Because if you're at this conference and you have that discount code and everything is working in your favor and you still are going to walk away a cryocrastinator, then you are not the one part of the ratio. You are part of these 6,935 people that are on their way to the grave. And if you have any more doubts, I'll take a few questions.
So I just want to say that was a terrific exposition of the range of issues. There's just one thing that I think perhaps you oversimplified, which is the question of procrastinating because you could do it in the future. I think that one has to take into account the fact that it is hard to persuade people that their future self is going to be stupid. In other words, basically, you have to kind of give people the choice on this. And in concrete terms, where I think most cryonics, well, all cryonics organizations may be going wrong, is by bundling the insurance aspect with the membership aspect. So I'm, when I got interested in cryonics, I was already, becoming a reasonably high-profile person in this area, and I felt that signing up and being a member of Alcor would actually benefit Alcor from a PR perspective, and that's the only reason I did it. Because I felt that signing up in terms of, having a life insurance policy that was, that had Alcor as a beneficiary, fine, I want a life insurance policy anyway. I can always change the beneficiary later. So perhaps one way of solving the problem of one's respect for one's future self, which is what I'm talking about, would be to have less of a coupling between those things, to make it clear that your membership is a charitable contribution to a cause you believe in for general, altruistic reasons, and your life insurance is a separate thing that you're interested in for preservation reasons.
Yeah, I think for some people that can be the case. And it's a good point that I'm not telling people as well when I'm saying sign up now. I don't say you have to have your life insurance done by the end of the weekend. Just start the process, right? And whether that's for you just to overcome the procrastination or it's coming from the motivation of for now, I just want to support. I don't care about getting it fully secured now. That's fine. But just start.
Yes, thank you. So in regard to the 1 in 6,936 ratio, assuming we're talking about people who are not ideologically opposed to cryonics, who think it's potentially a good idea, do you think there's an overwhelming single reason for that disparity, or do you think there's a multitude of reasons? And I say this because with a ratio that low, it does seem like there is some single large barrier, some sort of metaphorical elephant in the room. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I can speculate, but I'm not a typical representative of the general population, so I don't know if my speculation would be right, but since you've thought about it, I'm curious.
Yeah, I do think it's a combination. So I do think it's just the procrastinating aspect mixed with once you get older, evolution is trying to get you to stop. But even, I think one component that I maybe didn't touch on is that evolutionary aspect even before you get old. Like, even if you kind of think, yeah, I would like to live longer, there's a lot of drive genetically and evolutionarily against that. So it kind of prevents you from being adequately rationally motivated. Because if we were really rational about it, of course, everyone would be leaping to sign up for chronics. No barrier would be great enough to stop people from signing up, right? If they really understood the value, if they really want to live longer and understand that right now this is the only thing you can do, rationally, nothing should stop you. But humans are not rational creatures. I think we have a lot of squishy emotions and procrastination just working against us. If I had to give it one reason, it would probably be that.
Fantastic talk. One question, what do you think about the idea that people have multiple selves, like not like multiple personality disorder, just multiple different parts of them that are kind of activated in different contexts? And maybe the part that like says they want to do cryonics is different from the part that would actually have to go through with it. Or I'm just wondering if you think about this kind of multiple self thing and how that might relate to this problem.
Yeah, there's definitely Tim Urban has done a good post about procrastination, about like the panic monkey and like the different parts in your brain that are thinking about, planning ahead versus actually doing. So I think that's a thing. I think I've also thought, and I touched on a little bit, but different selves also exist across time. So, you are technically the same person that you were as a child, but really, like, if you look back at the child, they're relatively unfamiliar to you. And people somehow don't bring that forward and imagine, of course, the person that's much older than you is also going to be very different. And I think that's why they have a hard time imagining that the older them might not be as excited about life extension, even though rationally they should be if they want to live longer, because a future technology can bring back the love of life and all that. But yeah, those are all things that are working against them.
Yeah, just a comment that you can bring it in the opposite direction. You would be fine with preserving yourself as you are now, but you may not be caring all that much about your future self to be preserved, because they're going to be as different from you as you are from your 5-year-old self.
Yeah, that's something you have to ask yourself. I mean, for me, it is worth it, but yeah, to each their own.
Any more questions?
I'll just give one comment, which I think one of the biggest reasons that maybe you didn't address is social desirability bias. So just the fact that people you admire or respect or just surround you in your culture and your society aren't doing a thing means that you're much less likely to do a thing. There's just very few people in the world who are pioneers and are willing to sort of be contrarian and step against the grain. And I think that probably explains, maybe not all, certainly not all of it, but a very substantial, maybe a plurality of it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think there's a strong like status quo bias. I don't know if that's official term, but that's how I would kind of describe it, where people seem to discount the cost of things that are normal. So I used to work at Tomorrow Bio, and I would do these consultations where people would say, but if I get revived in the future, like, will I know the language, and what about my, job or whatever? And I'm like, I understand. The alternative is to be dead forever. I feel like we're not properly taking that into consideration, because that's kind of the given, that's the status quo, and so we're not adequately understanding the price of that. And that's where, of course, it's very important to make the social change to allow people to make better decisions and change that status quo.
Oh. I will point out that Alcor has an intent to be cryopreserved form. And I have had success with people who don't want to sign up right now to sign this form, to have it in writing that they want to be cryopreserved. This is their plans. This is their goals. They just haven't really done it yet. So that if something happens to them, perhaps family members would arrange something and there would be less legal issue.
Yeah, it's not a...
And it's a psychological step from their point of view. They have signed a piece of paper. So they've done a bit of step, and one little step, and can think, oh, I've already signed something now, and perhaps in a few years they may be more likely to do the rest of the forms.
Yeah, I agree on the psychological part. I would be careful to think this means my family might help out, just because, like, I have seen cases where it seems like the family's on board, they're going to take care of everything, and then it does not happen. Do not, if you really want to be cryopreserved, do not rely on other people for that.
All right. Thank you so much. Give it up for Rebecca Ziegler.